Now let's examine U.S.-Middle East relations 10 years after 9/11. Joining us now is Ambassador Edward Djerejian, the founding director of the James A. Baker Institute for Public Policy at Rice University. His foreign service career spanned the administrations of 8 presidents, and he was U.S. ambassador to Syria and Israel. He joins us now from Houston. Mr. Ambassador, welcome back to Bottom Line. Always a pleasure.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Sir, how did the 9/11 attacks change the way we view and deal with the Middle East? And since then, where has the U.S. succeeded and where have we failed in dealing with the region?
Well, 9/11, of course, was a traumatic historical event in America. The first time the homeland had been attacked by foreign entities since the 1812, 1814. It took the lives of many Americans and had a very significant political, military, and security impact on our policies. The so-called War on Terror was launched. The immediate aim was to go after Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, and a major national and international effort was made. I think since that time, what we've seen is a very serious diminution of the command and control of Al-Qaeda, especially by taking out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan recently, and some of his key lieutenants. So basically what we have is a diminished Al-Qaeda, but it is still alive as a franchise and as an idea, as witnessed even today when Secretary Clinton said that Al-Qaeda is behind this threat that's been announced in the New York area.
Right. Mr. Ambassador, what was the economic impact of 9/11 in terms of money spent and resources used to fight what the Bush administration did call at that time that global war on terror?
Well, I personally think that this terminology, global war on terror, is a misnomer. Wars connote more or less conventional warfare and battles, and at the end of the day, one side becomes a victor, sort of like planting the American flag on Iwo Jima in World War II. That doesn't happen in confronting and combating terrorism. Terrorism, and the real term should be combating terrorism. It's a struggle. It's a struggle that doesn't have a deadline. It will always be with us in one form or another. The goal is to diminish it. And therefore, I think that we shouldn't hype the issue whereby we're making bad policy choices in terms of where we put our human and our financial resources.
What does the United States need to do to become more engaged in the Middle East, and how does the U.S. achieve that without it being seen as meddling or nation building?
Well, as you know, there's been a tectonic shift in the political landscape of the Middle East with the so-called Arab Spring, the Arab Awakening. U.S. foreign policy toward the Middle East definitely has to acknowledge the new realities on the ground. What is happening in the Arab world today is very dramatic. The people in spontaneous popular uprisings are demanding their own individual freedoms and self-determination from the autocrats and dictators under which they've been governed for decades. Since virtually the 1950s. This has very important implications for U.S. foreign policy, and I think we have to identify ourselves, and indeed we do with our values, on the side of freedom, on the side of self-determination. Right. And we have to become much more intelligent in our approach to these countries now, because things are changing.
Mr. Ambassador, final minute, you talked about that so-called Arab Spring. Is that change necessarily a good thing, given that who we were dealing with, the governments in Egypt and Tunisia, they fell, but they were pro-U.S. governments?
That's true. These regimes were basically pro-U.S. We were supporting them. I think in the long arc of history, what's happening in the Arab world is akin to what we, the United States, stand for, both in terms of our values and our national security interests. But in the short term, there are going to be some detours. Some bad actors are probably going to come to power in certain of these countries. Extremists will try to hijack this popular uprising.
Right.
But I think in the long term, the fact that they are going to have broader political participation, more viable, uncorrupt economies is a good thing, and we have to support these movements.
The former U.S. ambassador to Syria and to Israel, Edward Djerejian, joining us from Rice University in Houston. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.